Hey everyone. Now, before I get into the review though, a bit of story time. Earlier today, my friend's best friend, I guess he went to the convenience store or something, and he saw this on the shelf, and he immediately thought of me. Now, I guess a little bit backstory about my best friend. He and I have basically been tackling have been watching the One Piece anime his first time for the past couple years. We're basically at the we're basically at the pretty much tail end of the we're basically in the middle of the Water 790 Slavi arc right now, and so I've basically turned him into a One Piece fan at this point, and I think this is kind of proof that yeah, I've officially made him into a diehard fan. Again, he did it mostly for me, but the fact that he thought of this at all says I've got the One Piece. I've got the One Piece fandom. He's got the One Piece fandom running through his veins now. But okay. Side story aside, though, let's get into the review itself. And I will admit, this is kind of an odd episode for me to talk about because I found the episode to be at its best when I was focusing on Kaido versus Yamato. That's where the real meat of the episode was. But once more, every time it focused on Momonosuke and Luffy, it felt like the episode slowed down. Now, the weirder caveat in the latter's case being that thankfully there wasn't a whole lot of scenes there was only like one or two scenes like that, but also that by the time we did get to the end with Luffy arriving back on the scene to fight Kaido, those slower moments did feel worth it. And I think the way I describe it, why this is for me, is obviously that I think the stuff with Momonosuke did flow better in the manga. But on the other hand, end of the spectrum, there does feel like more of an emphasis on Momonosuke's fears holding him back. So in that regard, it works. It works in that context within the anime. But I think what we got of Momonosuke could have worked better had Toei not spent so much time just on the build up itself. I think that's the way I describe it. Is that the build up, all the build up we've gotten with Momonosuke has been a little too much, and it just kind of dragged. I think drag everything else within this episode down a bit. Also, but despite that, the interesting thing about this though is that despite the Momonosuke stuff being slowest part of the episode itself still felt very well paced. So it's kind of weird overall. Like the stuff with Momonosuke is good technically, but it is slow technically, but it didn't necessarily entirely slow down the pace of the episode either. So it's kind of weird. I will also say that one time the whole scene with Momonosuke was funny for me is when it interrupted the fight of Law and Kid versus Big Mom. Just seeing their reactions was pretty priceless, being honest about it. Now, with all that said, let's talk about the fight between Kaido and Yamato, because immediately upon the fight picking back up, Kaido starts raging at Yamato, saying things like, she's an ogre's child, she's his child, and Wano will never accept her because of that fact alone. Because these facts, which will never accept her because of these facts, which in itself hints there's more to the reasons as to why Kaido chose Wano to make his base for operations than simply to make it a haven to bring pirates under his umbrella. He does have personal grudges against Wano and humanity as a whole for viewing him nothing more than a monster. And truthfully, for as much as I may not dislike this arc as much as others do, this is one of those things where I was holding out hope for that the anime would give us more context as to where this burning hatred for humanity Kaido has comes from. Because while we will get a flashback into Kaido's past, neither does it really paint a full picture either. Like, Wano is a weird case of painting like half a picture of Kaido's life and what drives him, but at the same time we never get the full picture either, at least when it comes to the context details. And yet in terms of how that applies to this fight, there is almost this weird feeling like Kaido's so chained to his past in a way where he feels his and Yamato's origins as ogres are a shared destiny. Like they're people they're two people who are destined to be cursed in a sea of hatred forever, to the point where you could almost say Kaido's trying to protect her in his own twisted, fucked up way. But it's also true that Kaido's forgetting the single golden rule, which is that actions and how you treat others matter just as much in how a person views you. And Kaido is so tied down by his past and what he feels is the ogre's personal curse that he can only answer in the language others have answered to him, that of fear and violence. And as he said, to educate Yamato that she is something that should hate humans as well, for this fact alone, for this fact alone, as she should hate humans for that same reason he does. The thing is, Yamato, while living in loneliness, has also seen what the kindness of others is worth, from both Ace to the samurai that helped her to even one of her father's own crew. She has the experience of seeing the kindness of the world and humanity that her father refuses to acknowledge because he's never experienced that kindness himself. It's a very interesting duality going on here right now that, again, like, it is explored through the character's actions, but it's also kind of one of those things where I'm like, I really wish we kind of just got more of why this is such a reason that Kaido himself seems to see being an ogre as a curse or whatnot, and that ogres have a destiny to be feared and should be reviled by others. Like, it's the one thing the manga didn't really touch on, and I don't think the anime is going to either, unfortunately. Aside from all that, though, visually, I'd say this episode. Okay, so I'm gonna get some flack for saying this, but visually, I'd say this episode played it fairly safe from a visual level. Aside from the scene we got at the end, like, there wasn't, like, the episode overall, there wasn't anything terrible about the art and animation this week, but it wasn't amazing either. The only like really great moment, I think, was that there was a couple moments during the fight with Kaido that was great, and the ending where Yamato and Luffy do that massive epic double team attack on Kaido. But aside from those like isolated moments, overall the episode I think played it pretty safe with the art and animation. But with that, I say this with the knowledge that, yeah, I think from what I've heard, Toei is going to be going all out, like, within the next couple episodes when it comes to Luffy's fight with Kaido now. Like, now that we're at this climax point, they are going to, like, I think, like, go all out and putting everything they've got into this arc. So, yeah. But I will also say, though, how the anime handles the Kaido versus Luffy fight from this point on is going to be interesting because those that have read the manga, like myself, will know this. But this is the point where the fight with Kaido does get a little needlessly long in places. Like, it's almost one of those things where you wonder if Oda made the fight as long as he did for the sake of the anime. So in that regard, it'll be interesting to see how the anime handles this already. Like, I don't see the need for them to do any lengthening of the arc, lengthening of the fight as it's already long enough. But so I don't see how Toei can make it any longer than Oda already had. But knowing Toei, they'll probably find a reason or a why for that. It's just, yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be, looking back on it now, this is gonna be a very weird fight to cover in the anime, honestly. But we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from my Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Evernight signing off. Later, everyone.